Solving inequalities. So you've done this before, pretty sure, in Algebra 1. What do you remember anything about solving inequalities? There's a couple of key things you got to remember.
Something with negative and flipping it.
Yes, that's the main thing. Something with negative and flipping it. So
Multiply or divide by negative. That's the inequality.
when multiplying or dividing, because that's kind of the same thing, right? Multiplying or dividing by 3 is multiplying by a third. That's multiplying or dividing by a negative. What's the rule, or what do you have to do? Flip the inequality. I mean, that's not the only thing, but that's kind of the main thing. Like everything else we've done before this year. I mean, it's just basic algebra stuff. Add 3 to both sides, divide both sides by 12, distribute, all the regular algebra rules. But there's this extra thing with inequalities. When multiplying or dividing by a negative, flip the inequality. I guess the only other thing is that sometimes we want you to graph on a number line. And what are we thinking about when we after we solve it, we go to the number line. There's kind of one thing you're thinking about, the open and closed circle thing. And we've done this before, so it's not new. And, I mean, there's the rule, but if it's less than or greater than, use an open circle. If it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, then it's a closed circle. And the motivation there is if you want to include the point, close the circle to indicate that you're including, equal signing the point. If you don't want to include the point, then leave it open to not include the point. All right, let's solve and graph all of 2 examples here. Negative 2, parentheses 10 plus 3x is less than 16. And this is mostly just algebra, so let's just pick on some people to get us rolling this morning. Make sure everybody's awake. I don't know, 3 might even be too many for this problem. Reese, what would you do first? There's actually 2 answers to what would you do first. Reese, what would you do first? Okay, I'll do that since that's what Reese picked. Would anybody else have done something else? You could divide by negative 2. No. No. We're not going to take a vote. I called on Reese. She wanted to distribute, so we'll distribute. But you could divide by negative 2. It's like just a preference thing. Which one sort of makes more sense to you? Reese saw the distribute, so we'll distribute. Others are in violent agreement or disagreement. They can do it their own way. But Reese got us started, so we'll distribute. Nicole, what would you do next?
Add 20.
I would add 20 to both sides. So negative 6 is less than 36. Rigged problem alert, right? They were kind to us here. Carson, what would you do next?
Divide by negative 6.
And then what do we have to be careful about when we're dividing by negative 6? Carson, what do we need to be careful about here?
Flip the sign.
Flip that inequality. So now x is greater than negative 6. The direction said solve and graph. There's the solve. Here's the graph. And on the graph, I don't need you to start at 0 and number out as far as you need to. You can just start with negative 6. Caroline, you want an open circle or a closed circle? An open circle. Why open? Because we don't want to include negative 6. And then, Aaliyah, which way should I shade? If I want all the numbers that are bigger than -6, are those over there or over there to the right? This would be one spot where maybe it is helpful to put other numbers on there. Like, you don't need to, but if you're getting confused, especially with negative, you're like, wait a minute, where's the bigger numbers? -5, -4, eventually you hit 1 and 2. So again, you don't need to label those, but if it helps you get the shading right, then by all means, label them. So there's our solve and our picture. Let's do one more. N greater than or equal to -3n minus 15 over 8. Last one took 5 popsicle sticks. I don't know if we can get 5 out of this one or not. We'll see. Jackson, start us off. What would you like to do first? I really only see one good option to start us off on this one. Jackson, what don't you like about that problem? Okay, let's fix that first. Let's multiply by 8. I like that a lot, because then that 8 on the right goes away, and now we don't have any fractions anymore. So 8n greater than or equal to -3n minus 15. Rena, help us out. What's next? I would add 3n to both sides. So 11n greater than or equal to -15. Preston, what do you want to do next?
Divide it by 11.
Yep, divide by 11. Preston, what about this inequality? Do I need to do anything to that?
A little bit.
I baited you into a trap there. When do we flip the inequality? When we divide by a negative. So the answer is negative, but that's not a problem. The problem is if you divide by a negative. So we're going to leave that one alone, greater than or equal to -15/11. And so I picked that one because that's the one that suckers some people in, because they see a negative, they're like, oh, the rule is the negative thing. You're like, well, kind of, the rule is the negative thing. But the rule is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, not if the negative number is still sitting there. All right, to graph it, this is where it's nice to not have to draw the whole number line, because you don't really even have to know where -15/11 is. You can just say, it's right there. There's -15/11. Allie, do you want an open circle or a closed circle at -15/11? Closed. Why do you want a closed circle? Good, because it includes -15/11. And then, Logan, where are all the numbers that are greater than -15/11?
Go to the right.
Yes, all those would be over there. Solve it and graph it. All right, it's kind of as crazy as it gets today. Yeah, I told you, embarrassingly short. You want me to make up 5 more examples to help you out? I didn't think so. Page 37, number 15, 21, 29, 31, 33, and 35. Sometimes it's a pain to list out the problems, but we do that because that's better than just saying 15 to 35i. It's like, well, that's a little bit overkill. You don't need to do all of them. So we look through, we pick out 2 or 3 of each type, and get you enough practice. All right, again, that took 9 minutes and 31 seconds. And so you have 30 minutes left. If you can do 5 minutes per problem, you can finish before you leave. Pretty sure you can manage that. We like these days. Quick notes, lots of time to work on it, and then no homework.